Hello, everyone. This is Joanna Daninas, and this is my second Truth Talk. And the topic for today, I've been thinking hard about this. It's going to be about the energy, the soul, the vibration, and frequency. And these aren't common things that we talk about. And I'm going to say this, these are my views, these are my beliefs. You may not agree with them, but nonetheless, this is my thought process and what makes sense to me. Okay. So, what do we know about energy? Um, in my opinion, energy never dies, it transfers. So, I believe we as humans, even though we don't know our existence or how we got here, I do believe that I have to say, there's a lot of theories out there, but I tend to lean more towards aliens having something to do with our existence. I know that sounds outlandish to some, but it's the only way that can almost explain how we got here. Um, and I truly believe that we have aliens in our environment, and I think a lot of people have now agreed to that and see that as being a true statement. So I'm going to stick with it. But nonetheless, you know, there's different theories, the Big Bang, Darwin's theory of evolution. To me, again, the only one that makes sense is that aliens have something to do with our existence here on Earth. Okay. Now, when you talk about energy, um, I believe that the soul, which is our energy, enters the zygote, we'll say, right, at conception. And I believe this because there's a certain um, reaction that occurs. And I believe that that is the action that draws in life. Okay. And I do believe in reincarnation. So I do believe that we don't just have this one life. I think we have many lives. And I do believe that we're here on earth to fulfill our life's destined path, our journey. And then when it's time to go, we don't know when that day is. Our soul leaves our body because again, energy doesn't die; it transfers. It leaves our energy. It goes into the spiritual realm and does its thing. I don't quite know what that is. I think we have amnesia when we come in, so we don't really know what that looks like. But I do believe we come from the spiritual realm and we return to the spiritual realm. And we may come back and recycle as many times as we need until we learn our lessons. So, and this makes sense when you talk about energy and energy transfer. It makes sense that things are cyclical, right? That we might have more than one life, and that we will, repeat and again until maybe we no longer have to. We've done our learning, right? So now, when we talk about energy, we also have to talk about vibration. As we know, good and bad, you know, evil and goodness, they exist in all realms. It exists everywhere. It's like a natural balance that has to occur, right? Without good, there's not, without evil, there's no good. Without good, there's no evil. It's kind of like a balance, right? It goes hand in hand. We can choose one or the other, and we can set our vibration accordingly. How we think, our thoughts allow us to um, manifest. And we want to be in a good place when we're doing this, right? We want to know that have a high vibrational energy and we want to attract the energy that we tend to attract the energy that we're in. So if we're low vibrational, we're going to attract other low vibration. So like the term misery loves company, right? People that are negative and unhappy tend to gravitate towards and bond with other people that are equally negative or unhappy. And the contrary is true, right? If we're high vibrational and positive, we're going to attract those same people. So it's important to be mindful of our energy, of our vibration, our frequency is another term, right? We are still can be all different, we're no one's the same. The question is, what is our frequency, right? And frequency, like I said, is actually determined by our actions and our thoughts, what we do and how we, care for ourselves, how we conduct ourselves, the choices that we make, who we surround ourselves with, because again, it's about energy transfer, right? So we want to, be in the right circle of friends and attract same like-minded people. And so therefore, it becomes, I want to say simple, but kind of is. If you kind of simplify things and you focus on the positives and you try to care for yourself, your health, your mental, physical, soul health, and you make good choices and you don't, go down the route of addictions, drugs, alcohol that can put you in that lower vibrational state, you're going to operate in a higher frequency and you're going to manifest better outcomes. So ideally, this is what we should all want, right? We should all want to be at our best behavior. We want to be able to attract like-minded people and we'd like to be able to achieve our goals and good positive things, right? Unfortunately, us being humans, we falter, right? We make mistakes, right? We often sometimes we learn from them, sometimes we don't, and sometimes we oftentimes we repeat cycles and we get stuck in this low vibration because perhaps it's what we're used to or because it's all we know or we think that's all that's, afforded to us or that's all that we're capable of achieving. But this is all not true because again, it always comes down to a choice, right? We have choices we can make. And we make many choices or decisions in a day. So that's why every single decision or choice that comes our way is important and that we should focus on, you know, every decision or choice we make on a daily basis. So um, when we talk about, we're surrounded by energy and some of us, actually all of us are intuitive, some obviously different degrees than others, but people that are more empathic or empathetic, like myself, we tend to pick up on energies, good and bad. So, what that means is sometimes we have to really be careful who we surround ourselves with because we tend to absorb that energy, and it can be very it can set you back, right? So what we have to do is, unfortunately, and this is where, again, our circle of family and friends gets smaller, is we have to be careful as to who we allow into our energy. And then once we are, um, exposed to a certain energy that may not be so pleasant, we have to kind of get centered and grounded again and protect our energy and release any negativity or emotions that we might have picked up from others. Right. So I know that again, a lot of this probably seems outlandish or foreign to a lot of people, but you can't dispute energy, right? And you can't dispute that there's good and evil, right? So when you're conscious of all of it, and again, you're making conscious choices and decisions, you actually have a lot more power, or we all have a lot more power than we think, right? It comes down to us being empowered enough to know that we possess the power within to make the good choices, to do the right thing, to take care of ourselves, to make sound decisions, to set boundaries when necessary, right? To block that negative energy from affecting us. Um, you know, Not to get off tangent here, but I've oftentimes wondered, how are these horrific crimes committed sometimes? Like what is because I try to believe that there's good in everyone. And I do believe that there is good in almost everyone. There might be a small percentage that unfortunately uh are will say not very well. Okay. And no matter what they do, they may never be able to recover. But I would like to think it's a small percentage. I like to think that there's hope for almost for everyone and hope for humanity. But what we have to be careful of is when we're under the influence of things and we lower our vibration, we are also drawing in this negative energy. And I think sometimes what happens, without going down a rabbit hole, is that um, negative energy attachments might take over us at our weakest point. And what happens is we're not cognizant of our actions and what we do. I feel like, an energy attachment can take over our body, commit killings, and do horrific things that maybe normally we wouldn't do. What comes to mind is Rob Reiner's son, which I know it's not decided yet, but allegedly that he perhaps killed his parents, and that he was under the influence. All right. So when you look at that and you say, how could a human being or anyone kill their parents like that? You have to kind of wonder, what really happened. And I do believe when you're in a very low vibration under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and that you're vulnerable. And I believe that negative energies will take over and cause you to act a certain way and do horrific things. So that's what I mean by protecting our energy. That energy is energy and we can't destroy it. It's there. We can we can block it, we can allow it in. And that's where we have the power to be extremely selective to make sure we are careful with who we surround ourselves with, family or not. I mean, like I said, you would not think that your son would have the ability to kill you. Well, if they're under the influence of a negative energy, they could. And so that's why it's so important. I talk about boundaries and setting boundaries because it's true. We have to be careful of who we allow into our lives and of how we allow people to treat us. Okay. Um, you know, we can have many discussions on this and there's always but it's your son or it's your daughter. How can you cut ties with your son or daughter? Or how could you not help them? Well, unfortunately, it gets a little more complicated. But if we were to simplify things, right, not complicate things, if it's not good energy, we don't want it in our realm. We don't want it surrounding us. And it doesn't matter who. We just don't want it. So again, we have the power and the choice and decision to make to prevent this, unwanted energy from affecting us. But we have to exercise it. We have to set those important boundaries. If um if someone needs help, like with Rob Reiner's son, I really wish he did get help. I wish that there was treatment for him. And he shouldn't have been able to obviously be let loose and do what he did. But unfortunately, it already happened, right? And that's where we have to really hone in on, what is a concern, what is a risk to society. And we need to, unfortunately, I mean, I hate to say this, but we have to contain it, right? We have to figure out a way where we have to stop this from happening. And obviously, we can protect ourselves by setting boundaries, but that doesn't stop someone from going into a public place and shooting everybody or, right? So there has to be a societal solution, uh, a better approach at handling um, these cases and more rehabilitative, not punitive way, right? We want to rehabilitate people. We want to get them well, mind, body, soul, because when we're well, we're not going to let that low vibration in. We're going to make good decisions and we're going to attract good people. So it's always a choice. What do you choose? Do you choose good or bad? Are you making wise choices or unhealthy choices? And so this is again a simple way of another way of explaining something that can be so complicated, but yet really make it simple. Because we all have the power. Again, we can't control anyone, right? We can only control ourselves, but we do have the power to control who we allow in and how we take care of ourselves and the choices and decisions we make, and how we can control and protect ourselves so that we're not in harm's way. And, when there is something that needs to be addressed, we can hopefully find a solution to act on it, to improve it, to make it better. Ideally, this would be great. The more people, the better, right? We're better together. United we stand, divided we fall. So, I mean, it is a big issue, but the more and more people realize that they have the power to protect themselves, to set boundaries, and to perhaps develop processes or ways of helping people that are in these negative states that have allowed this negative vibrational energy in, there are ways to rehabilitate and improve their situation. So, anyhow, I know that's, a roundabout long way of trying to explain things and how I feel about it. And like I said, felt like we're kind of got off tangent and went down the rabbit hole, but nonetheless, these are just thoughts and things that we need to consider. That they may not be the normal topic of conversation, but it's something that we really need to hone in on, understand, grasp the concept, and act on it. Really, truly realize that we do have more power than we think, and we can, choose good over evil and make good choices versus bad ones, and really know who we can allow in and who we should not for protection. Okay. So, anyways, again, what I'm putting out here, it's not edited. I'm not perfect. I may not have said everything beautifully. This is off the cuff. It's not scripted. And I'm doing this again because someone advised that I should put a video out there every day, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm trying to grow my channel. So if you could, please like, subscribe, share, comment. Um, if you want this to be a topic of your book club conversation, please do. Like I said, just please let's get the word out. Excuse me, because something needs to be done. We need to take action to make this world a better world. And we have to do our part. I always say, no one's perfect, but I'm not perfect, but I try to do better than I did the day before. And as long as we try doing that each and every day, and even if we improve just a little bit, we're going to see results. So we think we're powerless out there with everything that goes on with the economy, the government, politics, which I try not to talk about because it just adds a whole nother negative element that we don't need to do that. When you keep it simple and always incorporate the golden rule and you put yourself as the forefront of a positive change agent, and you know that you have the power within to choose and make the right decisions, choose good over evil, we actually have a lot more power than we think. So, anyways, I'm going to end it here. I wish you all a good evening. Again, I'm recording this. It's like around 8:30 right now, and I don't know what tomorrow's topic is going to be, but we shall see. So, thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye.